be talking about faith over fear. Ooh, it's going to be a good one. So, if you don't know who I am, I'm Coach Pamsky. I am a best selling author, I am a speaker. And hold on one second. Okay. I am a best selling author, a speaker, and a coach. And I work with women who want to make an impact in the world, where they want to amplify their impact, but they're experiencing stress and chaos and don't know what to do with it. Maybe they need boundaries. Um, I teach all about how to eliminate people pleasing, perfectionism, and procrastination. So, what I do is I show them how they can make stress a source of their strength. So, if that is you, make sure you reach out to me. Would love to connect with you. So today, our our topic is faith over fear. And my first question is, how much fear do you experience in your life? Are you fearful, or do you just have times where you feel fear? So, one of the first things that we have to do, we're going to go through 5 things that you can do to help overcome the fear and to really rely on faith. And the first one is where's your source of faith come from? That's a good question, right? Think about, where does your faith come from? Now, as a Christian, I would say my faith comes from God. And we can be very quick to say that. But let me ask you, how much do you actually rely on yourself, your own abilities, your own wisdom, your own actions? Hmm. Yeah, it could be quite a bit, right? We can be quick to say that we rely on God, but how much do we actually rely on ourselves? How much do we actually trust ourselves and trust our own abilities and take control? See, some of our fear comes from wanting control, being in control. And so we have to look at, okay, well, where can my faith really come from? See, as a Christian, you have God who is bigger than you, that knows everything that is ahead and can supply what is needed. And so if we could put our trust and our faith in him, then we're not totally relying on ourselves. Now, I'm big about the serenity prayer. I do think that there are things that are yours to do, things that you do need to have control of, or that is up to you to do. But then there's things that God does. And so having the wisdom and asking for the wisdom to know the difference is extremely important. So how do you know if you're being self-reliant? Hmm. Got to get to know yourself pretty well, don't you? You have to start looking at, what are my behaviors? What do I do? What does it look like whenever I am relying on myself? We can worry. So, worry is a big indicator that you're trying to do too much yourself, or that you're trying to take control, or that your faith is not solid in God, and you are trying to take too much control. So when you think about this, I always think about Matthew 6:25 that says, "Therefore I tell you, do not worry about your life and what you will eat and what you will drink, or even what you're going to wear. Is not life more than food, and the body more than clothes?" Right? And so we can get stuck worrying, but the fact is the Bible tells us that, the birds of the air, they sow, they don't sow, they don't reap, they're taken care of. Now, again, we do have to do some things to help ourselves, but we don't need to take total control. Because when it talks about the birds, Matthew tells us that your heavenly Father feeds the birds. And are you not much more valuable than them? Can any one of you by worrying add a single day to your life? No, actually, if you worry, you're taking time away, you're taking things away, right? And so being able to be aware of, how much do I worry? How much does my mind go into the future? Because that's what worry is all about. It's all about being in the future and not being in the present. So the second thing you have to do is you have to foster the strategy, the strength to withstand fear. So you have to be able to get to a place where you can withstand fear, because the truth is, you are never going to be without fear. Never. You are never going to be without fear. If you think that you can live the rest of your life, like you can conquer fear and the rest of your life you'll never have fear, no, not true. And so you will feel fear. It's what do you do with it? How do you respond or react to that fear? And we know fight, flight, or freeze is something that we do when fear comes our way. What if there's some things that you can do sometimes? Now, I know 100% of the time you might still get stuck in that fight, flight, or freeze. And there's things that your body goes through, the chemicals. And stop and think about it. We were created to be able to do these things. We were created to fight, flight, or freeze. But rarely do we run into a bear. Rarely do we have to go out and fight for our food. And so, even though our bodies are created so that we can fight, flight, or freeze, we have to be careful of how long we get stuck in that, and if we even need those mechanisms in every time we get afraid. And so acknowledge, what are you afraid of? What is it that you're fearful over? And accept it. Accept the fact that it's happening or it's there. Okay? Don't avoid it. Don't pretend like it's not there, because that's not healthy. Accept the fact that this is happening, or this person said something and now you're fearful of, oh my goodness, what are people going to think? And push through. Push through. Don't let fear stop you. Here's the thing. You're going to feel fear. Push through the fear. Don't hide it. Don't try to minimize it. Like don't pretend like it's not there. Don't try to push it away. Work through it. That's when you might have to tell yourself some things. You might have to say, I'm okay. Some of my clients, they get triggered. And one of the things that I tell them is, tell yourself, like, first you need something that grounds you. So have a rock in your pocket or a coin or something that you can physically rub your fingers on, that it grounds you. And then say to yourself, this is now, that was then. This is now, that was then. Because what happens is we can get stuck in old, fearful things. We get triggered. And when we get triggered, we get pulled right back to that moment. And if we can have something to ground us and then say, that was then, this is now. And maybe there's something fearful in front of you, and you can say, that was then, this is now. And right now, this is what's going on. And tell yourself the truth about what's going on, because sometimes we conjure things up in our head and make things a lot bigger than what they actually are. And so you need to be able to look at, okay, what is actually in front of me? Now, I'm going to say this. You may need to grab someone to help you. You may need someone to help you with your perspective. I talked about perspective the other day, and you may need someone to help you with your perspective. You might get stuck, and you can call someone that you trust, or when you have sessions with a coach or a therapist, you can reach out to them and say, "Hey, I'm really struggling right now. This is my perspective. I feel like I'm stuck in this." And they can start talking you out of it. But if you don't allow fear to carry you very far, guess what? You can do that for yourself. You can have things already planned ahead of time so that when something fearful happens or you feel fear, because sometimes there's not really anything fearful happening, you just feel that fear. You can have a box that has things in it that speak truth to you, that speak life into you, that speak positivity into you. In this box might be different activities that you can do, like somatic exercises and techniques to be able to help you bring those chemicals back down so that you can think and you can actually function. So, one of the other ways is pray for a new perspective. We talked about perspective the other day. There's I don't know if you've ever seen the picture, depending on who you are, you either see a frog or you see a horse. Some people see the frog, some people see the horse. It's all about your perspective. And if you struggle with your perspective, again, your past things probably have a lot to do with that. Then you might need to work through those past things so that your perspective can change. You deserve to have peace, and you deserve to have all that's waiting for you. But as long as your perspective is stuck in the past and stuck and marred by what has happened to you, it's going to be really hard to be able to have that peace that you deserve to have. So, faith is not a feeling. I talked about forgiveness today in Clubhouse, and I said forgiveness is not a feeling, and that brought up some questions. I'm saying that about faith. Faith is not a feeling, it's a choice. It's a choice. You get to choose faith. We have to intentionally reach for faith. It's almost not natural for us. We have to be present, conscious, and say, you know what? I'm reaching for faith. I'm going to have faith here that I'm okay. I'm going to have faith here that things are working out. I'm going to have faith that what I'm feeling is real. The feelings are real, but what's causing it is something from the past. And so faith is believing in what you can't see. And I know that's hard when you can't see something. It is really hard because faith needs to be reached for. And if you can't see it, it's hard to reach for it, right? You almost have to have faith that you have faith. Being able to reach for something that you can't see, but yet it's there. And so faith needs to be released. so that it can overcome. And sometimes that's through prayer, sometimes that's through talking, and sometimes that's through actions. And sometimes it's all three. Overcome fear through faith in action. Because when faith is in action, guess what? It overcomes the fear. Absolutely. So there's five. And here's the thing: some of the often one of the things that we fear is loss, abandonment, people leaving us losing something. And when we experience a loss, the one thing that a lot of people don't do is they don't allow themselves to grieve. And we're not going to get into this too much today because of time, but in order to allow yourself to grieve, you have a process that you go through, and you have to allow yourself to go through it. And if you don't, again, you can get stuck. And I'm going to tell you, a loss is not just someone dying. A loss is anything that you lose, and it's never just the initial thing that you lost, because there's always a lot of little losses in a bigger loss. And so often people struggle and they don't realize why they're struggling. Well, because you don't just have to grieve the big loss, you have to grieve all the smaller losses that come with that big loss. So, in order for you to be able to do this, you have to be good at seeing yourself, being aware of yourself, and then taking action. Number 4 is cultivate strong relationships. Yes, cultivate. That means action again. Do you see what this is? You can't just sit and not do anything. I know it can be overwhelming and I know it can be hard. But if you choose not to do anything, you will always get what you're getting. Nothing will ever change. It'll always be the same. And so you have to cultivate strong relationships to be healthy, to be able to move past fear. Strong relationship with God, strong relationship with yourself, and a strong relationship with others, with people that you trust. Because we were created for community. We were created to be together because we are so much stronger together than we are apart. And number 5 is let faith strengthen even out of season. So, what that means is for everything, there's a season, right? We go in and out of seasons. Something that you're going through right now, in a couple years, you may not be going through it. In a month, you might not be going through it, but there might be something else. And so there's a time for everything. And so you can tell yourself, this shall pass. Whatever's making you fearful, this shall pass. Because there are seasons and things change. You change, people change, environments change. And so you can tell yourself this isn't forever. I know several people who are sick right now and they're really struggling. And one of the things that they tell themselves is that this isn't forever. And you say, well, but what if they are sick forever? Or they're not going to be? Because at some point, they're going to pass on. They're going to pass into the eternal life. And if they're Christians, well, that pain that they're feeling or that sickness that they have, guess what? They're not going to have it whenever they pass on. And so some of the things that you can do when you're in a season is you can take a journal and start writing what you're experiencing and what you're feeling and what you believe is ahead of you, or what is the purpose, or write what your faith, where your faith is coming from. Put promises down that you can continually read, and be prepared ahead of time. You might be in a season right now where there is no fear, things are pretty stable, secure, but things change. And so if you prepare now for, and I don't mean like prepare to where you're so scared that something bad's going to happen. I don't mean that at all. I mean, have a box. Put the things in it that you really enjoy, that you know lift you up, that help you stay calm. The things that you can do that you know are good for you. Listening, like if you know that listening to certain music just calms you, puts you in a better place mentally, spiritually, physically, then make sure you have your playlist ready in case you need to pop into it and receive that blessing. So here we are. I gave you the 5 things that you can do to help faith conquer fear. If you need help with that, let me know, or reach out to someone that you know and make sure that you're getting the support that you need, because we do not have to walk this life by ourselves, and nor should we. There was a time where I all myself, and it almost destroyed me. And so do not allow yourself to be walking this alone. I look forward to seeing you next time. It's time to thrive while alive.